Hello YouTube, this is Bowtied Media, and today we've got our first installment of This Friday in EDM. The way this works is that because a lot of songs and projects and albums, EPs, singles are released on Friday, we're going to take a look back today at the last week of releases and stuff that had come out from before then. And while not all of these songs came out today and they won't always come out on the exact Friday, the idea is that by this Friday, when you're hopefully watching it or when this video goes up, the idea is that these songs will have just been released, or it will be at least a week old, maximum a week old. So let's get right into it. The way this is going to work is we're going to categorize the songs into 4 sections. We've got the first, which is Don't Bother, songs that, hey, I'm not a fan of, and you probably won't be either. And even though everyone has different styles and different opinions, you're probably not going to like it that much. Second is Neutral, songs that, while I may not love it, I think you potentially may love it. If you have a different style or different opinion on something, you may really, really like it. Then third is Good Listens, projects that I think are actually very, very good, and regardless of what your kind of overall genre opinion is, something that you might actually really enjoy. And finally, Standouts, the standout tracks, things that I think are phenomenal that have come out this week. Something that score-wise would be a 9 or a 10 out of 10, sometimes even an 8 depending on the song. But yeah, something that is just like really, really good that happened this week, something great. But we're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So starting at the first, Don't Bother. Next up, we've got Pnau and Blossom's Lucky. And I'm honestly a huge fan of Pnau. Haven't listened to Blossom really ever. This is my first song I've heard of theirs, so I was really excited for this. But this song, Don't Bother. It's a weird song. It's kind of it feels like a grasp at kind of the times and a whole idea of the mentality where some people look at it and go, be happy with what we have. And while it's a great mentality for certain situations and actually one to have in life, the way this song portrays it is kind of weird. Just because the day that we're living in, the day and age with all this kind of living inside and kind of stuff, the song feels like it's that, this is our anthem for everything that's going to get better and that kind of stuff. And it just falls flat. The song really doesn't have a lot to it. Pnau's classic kind of deep house, like really, really deep, like jungle house, is pretty absent throughout the song. I mean, it's there, but it's a lot higher than it normally is. So even with some bass boosted headphones, you're really not going to have much. So, I mean, I wouldn't bother with these tracks. Up next, we have the Neutral songs that, I mean, aren't really my favorite, but I think you might possibly enjoy. Songs that, just kind of cross the middle line boundary. They're kind of meh, is another way to put it. But first up, we've got Zeds Dead and Funkin Matt's remix of Biicla's Deeper. And this song hasn't really anything going for it. There's not a lot happening. I'm just not really in love with it. There's hints of this deep house, kind of the thwum you get from the deep house. And it's there at the end of the drops, but it's kind of just, it's gone throughout. And there's nothing really happening. If that were to have stayed and it constantly were to have been there, present throughout the drops, I think it would have been not bad. But there's just not a lot happening. It's a pretty redundant song. Their vocals, I mean, aren't phenomenal. It's meh. It's neutral. Next up, we've got Bass Nectar featuring Shallou Season's Rewind the Track. This song is another neutral song. It's a song that I actually first listened to it and I was like, this is going to be really bad. The first part, the kind of light piano with the kind of hip-hop rap kind of vocalist just like kind of singing, not really rapping over it, more or less talking, I guess, than anything. It felt, again, outdated. I'm using that term, I guess, a lot this week. A lot of outdated tracks came out this week. But it just felt really strange. But as soon as the drop came in, it kind of hit hard. It was a bit of a banger, and I started to enjoy the song a lot more as it progressed. I'm always a sucker for vinyl scratches, and the song uses quite a bit of them, but not too much that it's a little overbearing. But in terms of a song where you'd kind of play it, it's a great workout playlist filler or something like that, a hype song. But I mean, other than that, I wouldn't use it too much in other situations, but it's meh. It's very middle of the road. Up next, we have Kaskade and Project 46 Chains. And I swear this is the last time you're going to hear me say this for this week. The song feels outdated. And I actually think that's kind of Kaskade's style. I listened to the song and I was like, okay, I keep thinking all these songs are outdated. So I went back and I'm like, okay, this progressive kind of commercial house, is this just the style of where it is, or is it kind of Kaskade Project 46? Project 46 hasn't worked on a ton lately, and they kind of went to a more tropical house vibe back with the Stars or the Signs songs with Monster Cat. But I went back and I was like, actually, Kaskade, this is kind of what Kaskade does. His kind of commercial house is pretty much just the style. And so I was very interested and realized that Kaskade is kind of an outdated producer. Fun fact, I actually have Project 46's first album, Beautiful, signed and in my car, and it stays in my car throughout the entire time when I'm driving. I don't listen to it all the time, but I mean, it's there sometimes if I want it. But yeah, so this is their third single off a new album that's coming out. Obviously, we don't have a name or date yet, but we can tell from the same album arts. But yeah, so we'll see where Project 46 goes with this. Up next, we've got Oliver Heldens featuring Rowetta with The Rave Machine. And ironically, this song isn't really ravey to me. It doesn't feel like your classic rave song. When I think of a rave song, my first actual guess is not guess, but my first thought is to go to Dada Life. And Dada Life kind of killed that time, the 2013 to 2014 vibes of the rave, and they just absolutely killed it with what they have and what they've produced. Knife Party's also created a lot of their good kind of ravey songs, but this one didn't feel like a ravey song. The Deep House drop was great. I was a big fan of it, but other than that, I mean, the song was meh. I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel like the rave machine to me. But yeah. Up next, we've got Vanic and K.Flay's So Slow. And I mean, these two have just worked together so much, and I love it. Vanic is a great producer who kind of does a more experimentally future house, kind of like filtery based kind of production to a lot of his songs, and K.Flay's vocalists are great for their tracks, or for his tracks. And the two of them work together quite a bit, and this feels like just another kind of classic song that they produce. It's nothing too phenomenal. It's not way out there. It's not also the worst that they've put out, but it's a pretty good middle-of-the-road track that I enjoyed. Up next, we've got Louis the Child and Vera Blue's Nobody Like You, and that actually rhymes a little bit. But the first thing you need to know with the song is Vera Blue's vocal performance is incredible in the song. Her ability to just sing her heart out on every track is great. I think she's one of the best vocalists in the EDM business. The song is also just a further testament to the fact that Louis the Child can produce pretty much anything. They got the whole EDM scope in their grasp, and they've excelled at everything. This is kind of a fun poppy anthem kind of love song, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a pretty good track. Up next, we've got Mr. FijiWiji and Chxse's Morningstar. And I am a huge fan of Mr. FijiWiji. I used to have his sticker on the back of my car. But that being said, this song it's kind of a meh for Fiji for me. I don't think it's his best. I really don't think it's even close to his best, actually. But me being kind of a Fiji sucker, I really do enjoy it. So it's a song that is the highest up on the neutral list. It's not, I wouldn't quite call it a good listen, but I really, really enjoy it. The thing that makes this different is that Fiji doesn't quite go as deep as he normally would with a lot of his kind of almost like stringy chord progression, the way it kind of all flows together, like something he would on Dogma or Lost, his last EP and album. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent track. It's got some classic vocal chops in it. I think the song's a little on the shorter end, but I mean, yeah, I would have loved to know what kind of production balance there was between Fiji and Chxse in this one. We are now moving into the good listens portion of this week's tracks. Up next, we've got Petit Biscuit and Shallou's I Love Again. And these two are some of the best emotional, kind of slower electronic music producers in the game. They create some solid tracks. I mean, Sunset Lover from Petit Biscuit is like an absolute classic, and people everywhere really know that. It became a big hit. And Shallou's produced a lot of good, I'd say under-the-radar projects in the past. And the two of them together just form an incredible bond. The drops are like smooth and elegant, and they almost feel like you're... I don't even know how to describe it. It just feels... It's smooth. There's really no other way I think I can put it other than smooth. So you need to give this track a listen to yourself and just, yeah, see if you love it or not. I mean, I do. I think it's a great listen. Up next, we've got Kygo and Valerie Broussard's The Truth. And this song is really, really good. I enjoy it quite a bit. I always thought Kygo as this really repetitive tropical house. He only does that, and it just is... There's no variance in it. There's not much happening in the songs ever. But even though it's still house, he takes a more progressive approach to this one rather than tropical. And Valerie's vocals really complement the project. And I think it's an overall great single. And I'd like to see more from Kygo in this style. Up next, we've got Matt Zo's Love Songs. And I mean, it is always a pleasure to hear more Matt Zo. I'm still waiting on another album from him. This guy's got to be putting out something soonish, I hope. It's always great to hear this guy come out with some funkadelic beats and just produce some absolute bangers of tracks. This thing is classic Matt Zo. If you don't know Matt Zo, there's really no way to describe it. You just need to go listen to it. But this song is great. Doesn't have a lot of vocals. It's kind of your classic. Classic Matt Zo doesn't have a ton of vocals, but adds a lot of vocal chops that added a lot of nice elements to the track as a whole. A good length, and it's a great track. Moving into our standouts of the week now. We've got 2 standouts from the week. And our first standout, the second best song I think of this week, is Disclosure's Energy. This song is a banger. This is a nice deep house, kind of deep jungle house vibe. It is just, it's great. It reminds me a lot of, obviously, the Chxse EP that they just put out recently. The vocal performance from the song is the same as they did in Settle, when A Fire Starts to Burn was obviously the intro track to that. And so it's the same kind of vocalist as those first 2 tracks from the Settle album. And it works really well, especially with this more jungle vibe. Before, in Settle, they had a more deep house, like really kind of bangy track. It's kind of hard to explain back in When a Fire Starts to Burn, but this song takes the jungle root vibe and it works really well with this vocalist. This song is perfect for the club setting, and once the synths hit in about the halfway point or just before the halfway point, it takes the song from a good listen to a standout track of the week. And with this song, Disclosure has announced that they have an album in the work, and this is the first single off of the album. So I'm super excited for another Disclosure album. I cannot wait. Their last 2 were great. We've been waiting practically, I think, 5 years now for another album from them. And finally, speaking of singles of new albums, deadmau5 and the Neptunes' Pomegranate. It is my favorite track of this week and our last standout. Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo of the Neptunes add a ton to this track, and I really love both their production end and their vocal performances. And paired with deadmau5's production, this thing is just absolutely gold. I love everything about it, and I'm super excited to see an album in this style. While deadmau5's last full-length album, While One Is Less Than Two, kind of saw a lot more experimental and more quieter song with only one really big actual poppy song. I don't know if Pomegranate's going to be just the one of this, but if the album's going to be anything close to this, I'm going to be a huge fan, and I am super excited to see what more deadmau5 can put out. Well, that is it for the week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more of this content, hit subscribe, hit like if you liked it. Also, I need more artists. If you have a lot more artists of EDM that you follow or you listen to that you want me to cover, or stuff that you want me to see when their new releases come out, put them in the comments below and I'll go follow them, and so that I know that I can put this out and put the content out that you guys actually want to see, the artists that you guys want to see. I don't care if the artist is really small or really big. I don't care. I'll listen to anything that's EDM wise, and hopefully we'll get a lot more releases. So I'll see you guys in another video.